What's up guys, Shane TV here, and today I'd like to show you how to create your own VPN application. Everything in this tutorial is completely free, and I will provide all the download links in the description below. I'd like to cover 4 things this tutorial. The first one being coding our actual VPN application. Secondly, creating our VPN server that we're going to connect to. I'm using DigitalOcean just because they provide your first 30 days. They provide like a 30-day trial you guys can use. I'll leave a link for that in the description. You guys can use it as well. Number 3, configuring our VPN server for both so that we can connect with UDP if we want to, or if we want to connect with TCP, we can do that as well. And finally, accessing restricted content with the VPN that we're going to make today. I'm going to show you guys a YouTube video that's blocked in my country. We're going to access it with this VPN that we're about to make. The tools that you guys are going to need is PuTTY, FileZilla, and the Community Edition version of OpenVPN. I'll leave a link for that in case you don't know what that is. Everything was going to be in the description, all the download links. So, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and open Visual Studio. Make sure you guys run it as an administrator. And go down to create a new project. Here you can scroll down until you see Windows Forms app.NET framework. Hit next, project name, let's just call it VPN, and create. Now that we have loaded that up, you'll see a blank form. In the bottom right in the properties box, we can just name this form 1 VPN. And you can see it changed up there to VPN. Next, open the toolbox, search for combo box, search again for button, double click that twice, we need 2 buttons, and then right underneath it, the radio button. We're going to need 2 radio buttons. Close the toolbox. We got both our buttons, both our radio buttons, and our combo box. So let's start with radio button 1. Let's call that UDP. Let's click on radio button 2 and call that TCP. I'm going to line it up a little bit. Let's call the button 1 connect and call button 2 disconnect. So now we've got a connect button, make it a little bit bigger, and we've got a disconnect button. That all looks good. Line it up a little bit. If you click on the background of the form, you can actually resize it. I'm going to make it just about that. That looks fine. You can start the program and see how it looks. Make it a little bit bigger actually. And that's perfect. So, here, click on the combo box, and at the top you're going to see an arrow, like a black arrow. Click on that and hit edit items. In here we're going to name our server, we'll just call it server. And also in the properties box we can scroll down until it says text, and let's just type select your server. So if we go ahead and run that again, you'll see it says select your server, that's our server name, and we can connect with UDP or we can connect with TCP. And we also have a disconnect button. So to get started on this, let's double click the connect button. And you see it creates a private void button underscore click. Go up to the top here, delete all these extra system namespaces, And I'm just going to add using system diagnostics. You should only need to use 3 namespaces for this tutorial. So now that we have button 1 click private void, you can double click on disconnect as well if you want. That's also going to create a private void for that. And that should be good. So now we can begin writing some code. Let's start this off with our button 1, our connect button, with an if statement. So if combo box 1 text is equal to server. Remember how, or whoops, finish that if statement off. Remember how I made it say server here? So that if the combo box equals server and the radio button 1 is checked, then it'll run whatever's inside here. We can also do it else if combo box 1.text equals server and radio button 2 is checked, meaning if the only server that we have is server, right? If UDP is selected, it'll connect. This is radio button 1. And then in our else if statement, radio button 2, if this is checked, then this will connect with TCP instead. So now that we have our if and else if statements set up, we can start by writing some code. So process, start with a new process. Let's also add a process start info. We're going to use a lot of start info in this tutorial. Whoops. So new process start info. Let's add some start info. Let's start with a file name. This is actually the file that's going to connect to the VPN. So open File Explorer, go to your local disk, Program Files, OpenVPN. It should be here for everybody, but if not, it's good to double check that your OpenVPN.exe is in here. So I'm just going to copy this OpenVPN.exe, copy all that, and paste it in there. Next, we'll add some arguments. This is actually going to be the OpenVPN configuration file that we're going to make. So config, I don't really know a server name, so I'm just going to say server.ovpn. Not sure what region I'll use yet. Start info again. We'll do a verb. Run as, this ensures that you're running as an administrator. And then process start info, process start. And that's about it. You can go ahead and copy that and paste it in our other else if statement. Oh, also another thing you could add here is a message box. and say something like you've connected to server with UDP. Copy that and also paste it down here. Also, I accidentally didn't copy that. Make sure that you can just copy paste this and paste it in your other else if statement, and it should work fine. Down here is our button 2 click. You remember button 2 is our disconnect button. So we're actually going to need to create a function or a method for this. You can start with saying like disconnect, and it'll automatically generate a method down here. So private void disconnect. The way we can start this is let's start with process start new process start info. Close that off with wait for exit. And that should be good. Process start info. Whoops, I think I added an extra. I messed up somewhere. There we go. And what this function is going to do here is it's basically going to kill our OpenVPN.exe so that we disconnect from the VPN. So start with file name task, or we'll just say task kill. We'll give it some arguments. And this is what is going to kill the process. So FIM and then our OpenVPN.exe. You see right here it says OpenVPN.exe. This is the file we're going to be killing. Create no window. Set that to true. Use shell execute. Set that to false. Oops. And that's good. So this is our function, our disconnect function. As soon as somebody hits the disconnect button, this function will execute and kill the OpenVPN if it's running. So let's double check this. Server UDP connect. You've connected to server with UDP. TCP. You've connected to server with UDP. Oh, shoot. Oh yeah. Change this to TCP, obviously. Run that. You've connected to server TCP. There we go. Everything's running good. Everything looks good. I guess we can go ahead and begin configuring our server. Or creating our server and then configuring it for UDP and TCP protocols. So, like I said, I'm using DigitalOcean for this. It's all free. It's like a free 30-day trial. Go to your projects. Go to get started with a droplet. This will load. Ubuntu 18.04.3 is fine. Starter plan, $5 a month. Region, I'm going to go with London, United Kingdom. You guys can choose any of these. I just prefer to go with this one. One-time password and create droplet. This should only take a couple seconds to create. And it's made. Go to my inbox. Your new droplet. Your new droplet is all set to go. Your IP address right here. Copy that. And let's open our PuTTY. Open up PuTTY and it should say hostname or IP address. This is where we put our IP address. It'll bring up a security alert. You can just hit yes to that. Log in. Our username is root. Our password is right here. Changing password for root, current Unix password. Enter that password again, and then create a new password. And we're in. So now that we're into our server, we can begin configuring it and installing OpenVPN on it. The first thing we want to do is go to the GitHub of our OpenVPN installer. I'll leave a link to this GitHub in the description if you guys want. Basically, this guy made a really quick way to install OpenVPN on really any distro. So copy that, run these commands right here. It'll ask you some information like your server IP address. Do you want to use a custom port? We'll just use the default UDP, enter, 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 and then it'll make it. In the meantime, while this server is being created, let's go ahead and copy our IP address again and open FileZilla. Log in with root and the password that we just made. And port 22, quick connect. You might get an update from FileZilla, just close out of that. Go back to our PuTTY client. It says, tell me a name for the client. I'm going to name this UK UDP. And no password. And then hit refresh on FileZilla, and you'll see our UK UDP OpenVPN file has been made. We can drag this onto our desktop. That successfully transferred onto our desktop. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a TCP configuration. And that's actually done because the owner of this GitHub didn't actually add a TCP option to run UDP and TCP at the same time. You see, we can check by running this command here. And this basically checks port 1194. And you can see we do have UDP running, OpenVPN UDP running, but there's no TCP. Well, there's no option to add TCP. I'm going to show you guys how to do that real quick here. Simply go to the remote site here at the top of FileZilla and type in / etc. / OpenVPN. You'll see a server.config file. Drag that on your desktop. Copy it, paste it on the desktop, and name it server2.config. And if we go ahead and open the first server config, you'll see it says proto, meaning protocol, UDP on port 1194. using server 10.8.0.0. Let's go ahead and open our server2.config. And let's change protocol UDP to TCP. Let's replace server 10.8 to 10.9 and save. Drag that back into the server. Hit refresh. Oops. You should see a server2 config show up. I'm going to drag it and drop it again and see. There we go. So now I have server.config and I also have a server2.config, which is good. We can delete these off of our desktop now and open our PuTTY back up. And let's put some IP tables in here. So let me extend this so you guys can see it a little bit better. IP tables, all this stuff will be in the description. This is opening port 1194 for TCP, accept. And this command here will open that new server we just created, 10.9. Accept. And all we got to do now is restart our OpenVPN server. So service OpenVPN restart, and then type the same command, OpenVPN as server2 restart. Go back into FileZilla. /root. In here you'll see a openvpn/install.sh. Hit view or edit on that. Make it a little bit bigger. And what we're going to do here is we're going to find, or actually we're going to go to line 883. It's going to be a little bit different for you guys because the GitHub owner, if he were to change some code in here, you know, this obviously wouldn't be line 883 anymore because he could add, you know, GGG here. And this is now line 886. So anywhere that looks like around this code area, it should be fine. We're only pasting one line of code in here. And that's this line of code right here. Set server2, the server2 config that we just made. Control save, close. Would you like to save? Yes. Refresh. And that's all good. We can go ahead and restart again. If you we could have done the restart before, but it doesn't really matter. And now when we run that command from earlier, look at this. We've got TCP running now, OpenVPN. And we also have UDP running, OpenVPN. All we got to do now, copy the UK UDP, paste it. Let's call this UK TCP. Open with Notepad. Change that protocol to TCP. Save. Now we've got both of our OpenVPN configuration files, UK UDP and UK TCP. Open our file explorer, go to local disk, go to program files, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry. Go to users, Shane, or whatever your name is on the PC, source, repos, VPN, VPN, bin, debug, and here's where we can paste those configuration files. Go back into our VPN, back out of that a little bit, and I'll zoom in so you guys can see. Make sure the configuration file we made earlier is the same name. So UK UDP for radio button 1, that's UDP. And this one has to be UK TCP. And that should be fine. So now we have all of our configuration set up. On our server, we can close out of PuTTY. We can close out of FileZilla. Let's go ahead and give this a test. Select your server, UDP, connect. And you can see you've connected to server with UDP, and you'll see a CMD open in the background. This is actually OpenVPN.exe running and connecting you to the server. I'm going to open my Chrome back up, go to whatismyipaddress.com, and now I'm located DigitalOcean, United Kingdom. Let's go ahead and disconnect. Hit F5. And now I'm back in the United States with Verizon Wireless. So our VPN has successfully been made. Oh, we should probably test the TCP protocol that we just made as well. So go to whatsmyipaddress.com, connect with TCP. You've connected to server with TCP. Let all this run, and then go and hit F5. Now I'm back in United Kingdom with DigitalOcean. So we've confirmed that UDP and TCP are both working. We can disconnect, and let's actually add something in here so that black CMD screen doesn't pop up in the background. We can start that, or we can do that by saying start info window style process window style hidden. Copy that and paste it into our other else if statement. Also go down here. I'm going to add a message box just so that we know we disconnected. We hit the disconnect button. You've disconnected from server. That's fine. Start our program up again. Select server, UDP, connect. You've connected to server with UDP. F5. I'm in the United Kingdom. And there's no of that background CMD coming up. Hit disconnect. You've disconnected from the server. Let's hit F5. I'm back in the United States. Connect. Let's test it with TCP. Hit connect. You've connected to server with TCP. Let's hit F5. Whoops. Give it another second. And DigitalOcean, United Kingdom. So, disconnect from that. Open our notes back up. And the fourth thing of this I wanted to talk about was accessing restricted content with the VPN we just made. So, I'm going to go to YouTube. And we are disconnected from the VPN right now. So open a tab and go to youtube.com. You see this video here is unavailable. This video contains content from Viacom, who has blocked it in your country on copyright grounds. I can't see the video. I can't see comments are turned off. I can't see anything. Let's connect to our server. You've connected the server with UDP. Let's hit F5. And the video is loaded. I can look at all the comments, all the videos. We just bypassed the YouTube restriction with a simple VPN client like this. Hit disconnect. You've disconnected from the server. Let's go ahead and hit F5 on YouTube. And I'm blocked. I can't see comments. I can't see the videos. Everything's blocked. Let's try connecting with TCP. Connect. You've connected to the server with TCP. Hit F5. And the video is loaded. All the comments are loaded. Disconnect. Hit F5 and we're blocked. So that's just a real world example of how this VPN, this simple tool we just made today, you can access any website, any YouTube video that is restricted in your country. So I hope you guys enjoyed. We covered all 4 things today. Yep. I think that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you'd like to see some more videos like this, comment down below what you'd like to see. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or subscribe. And that's it. Thanks for watching, you guys.